Okay, here's a video. This is Gabe. Oh, looks like Allie, Gabe's wife, YouTube channel. They lied to you about waiting for marriage, Christian dating. This guy over here, this guy went to heaven. That's how I knew about him. This is his girlfriend.
We definitely found ourselves crossing the boundaries at times where we would kiss. We thankfully continued saving ourselves, but we found our boundaries shifting a little bit more than we desired.
Today, we're going in depth about the 5 lies that we were told about waiting for marriage.
And we discovered the truth for ourselves, and we're going to be going into some details here in this video that you haven't yet heard, because I know this is a very
it's really not that hard. You wait till marriage.
popular topic that you guys are interested in, to say the least.
So if you are single, dating, or engaged, stay tuned because this will apply to you. Number 1, if you know they're the one, you don't need to wait.
Here's the truth. Preparation
Amen.
is never wasted time. And I know we live in a world
As
where
long
it's
as you're
just
very excited, the same religion, godliness, there's not another person out there that's that
a
much
microwave
better.
generation where you're so used to getting everything right away.
Peter F. Uchtdorf says, even if you find the perfect one, they'll reject you because you're not perfect.
I hate to break it to you, but this is actually one of the most important things that you could ever wait for. And sure, you know they're the one right now. Sure, you've gotten to know them a little bit. Sure, you're where you are. But I would challenge you, if they really were the one, why isn't there a ring on their finger? See, if you're so confident that they're already the one, if you're so confident in your commitment to them and their commitment to you, why aren't you married?
That's true.
And your answer would be, oh, well, we still need this, and this. And now we're getting real with ourselves. Now we're talking about the boundaries that you set on your finger. Why wouldn't you set them on another body part of yours?
Until you have a ring on your finger, you plan a whole wedding, and you say, I do, you're not committed. You're worth so much more than that. You are valuable and you are worth committing to, especially the most intimate parts of you that not everyone gets to see.
And sometimes you can so optimistically think about the person that they're going to change, they're going to improve, they're going to match your faith one day. One day you'll be equally yoked. So why don't you just give in a little bit right now? Because it's no big deal, right? Well, you don't say that about your bank account. You don't think about a friend of yours and think, oh, well, like they're pretty trusted, so let me just give them the password to my entire phone. No, you still withhold yourself because you understand that commitment that is needed. Something that women ought to desire is security and financial security and commitment and covenant. And men need a woman that's going to stay loyal. Us guys don't want our girls on OnlyFans. And we also, can I say something too? We don't want our girls flaunting themselves on Instagram in their bikinis. Oh, but remember, I forgot. You're just on vacation. Never mind. Not a big deal. No, see, like us guys, and now some guys are going to watch this video and be like, Gabe, you're tripping. But if you're being honest with yourself, you don't want girls that are publicly sold for free on Instagram. And that's the truth. You say, Gabe, you're so hateful. Okay,
Yeah,
sorry for telling the truth.
I kind of want to react to a video that I disagree with stuff because
You're offended? You should be. Because you need
guys
to
are
read
way
example
too
things. Line number 2, if you really love them, you shouldn't hold yourself back from them. The conception is, well,
Sorry to
love
disagree
gives,
with
right? So you should just give
someone
yourself to them. And like, if you really love them, you'll just hold
Sorry,
them back. Like, why do you even need to set boundaries at all?
Well, okay, this is like one of the biggest red flags in Christian dating is if you're dating someone and they say that they're a Christian and then, you guys get to know each other more and things start happening and they all of a sudden expect you to just have sex with them. And if you don't, it's because, oh, you never really loved me.
And it's not just to have sex with them, it's the little things. It's the kissing too much. It's the take off your shirt. It's the caressing. It's the massage.
It's those small steps leading up to it. But it's this thing of like the only kind of person that would say, oh, you don't love me if you're not gonna have sex with me is a very toxic person. And you want to protect yourself from people like that. You want to be with someone who respects your boundaries. Now you might be from the perspective of like, well, I really love them. Like I do want to do this. I feel like this is the only way I can show my love to them. When in reality, there's so many other ways to show your love to someone.
Sex is not love.
There can be sex with an absence of love. So sex does not equal love.
And that's what our culture has become. People giving themselves away. And that brings us into line number 3. People say, oh, you're just religious, setting all your boundaries. And we've gotten criticized so many times for setting boundaries. Like we wanted to wait until we got married to kiss. And we wanted to not snuggle in the bed together. And we wanted to, calm down a little bit on the PDA. And people accuse us of just being religious and traditional and boring. And people say like there's no other benefit for you waiting for marriage and setting boundaries other than your boring religious doctrine. What's your response to that?
First of all, it's that you are more valuable than just giving yourself to anyone. But the second one, and I think this one is crucial, is that if you look at studies show that people who have premarital sex, those relationships are 161% more likely to fail and end in divorce. And so if you really want to protect your future marriage, then you want to wait until marriage. And I mean, that was probably one of the biggest reasons that I waited for marriage is because I wanted to have a healthy, lasting relationship that didn't end, that didn't split my kids' parents apart, that didn't break up a family, but that was united and lasted the test of time.
And studies have also shown that it's the number one determining factor as to whether or not someone is going to live a stable, successful, joyful life, that they're going to get a career, that they're going to be able to pay their bills, that they're going to be independent and be able to get things out on their own, is if they value themselves and don't give away their bodies to everyone around
Totally. And there's a recent study that even showed that people who wait until marriage and are virgins on their wedding night, they have the most satisfying sexual lives.
Sex is so much stickier than you would believe. It's not just a fast food restaurant that you can go to, have a transaction, and then leave, and then just get hungry a couple hours later and act as if it didn't just happen. But there's an attachment and a soul tie that you have, not just to a person, but to that porn addiction, but to those images you see on your Instagram page, to whatever it is that is feeding your sexual appetite immorally. And when I say immorally, I'm not pushing some religious propaganda down the throat. Instead, I'm telling you the truth. That'll set you free. Because God's not against sex. He actually created sex for you, but it's within marriage that it's pure. It's within marriage that it's actually worth it. Any other form is just a cheap plastic version. And that's what we got to think about it. We're not anti-sex. We're actually having it the right way. We're actually about living life God's way. And so it's not about religious tradition. It's about love for Him, love for ourselves. Even if you were a complete atheist, if you implemented the principles that we're applying in these videos, your life would change because the truth will set you free whether you know it or not.
Line number 4, if you already messed up once, there's no sense in trying now.
And people are always like, well, we went this far, so why don't we just go a little bit further? Or if we've made this mistake in the past, it's okay to just make it again. That definitely is exactly how the enemy works. He doesn't fully convince you to have sex on day one and just throw off your clothes and take it that far right away. But instead, he just gives you these subtle little temptations or just little steps down the hill where all of a sudden you'll find yourself doing things that you never imagined, but it was just step by step, temptation by temptation. First, it's just a kiss, and then it's just a massage on the neck, and then it goes further than that, and further than that, and further than that, and it always is just a spirit that tells you that you just got to keep going, and you forget about your original boundaries that you drew at the start.
Don't discount yourself from the grace of God for your life. Yes, you might have fallen in the past, but you can get back up, you can change, you can repent and turn away from that lifestyle. God, His grace is sufficient for you in all things, and no matter what you've done, there's nothing that He can't wash you brand new.
And you're righteous in His sight,
Yeah.
not because of what you've done or because of your works, as if they're a list that qualifies you, but instead you're made right with God because of the price that Christ has paid for you. Back in says in 2 Corinthians 5:21, He became your sin so that you could become His righteousness. And so it's up to us to accept that truth and walk in who we are, not in who we're trying to be, not in all of our actions added up, but instead the truth of who we are in Christ. When we come from that place, we'll run away from sin as fast as we possibly can because we want nothing to do with something that isn't us.
I also understand that there are people watching this video right now, and maybe you were violated, and this happened to you without your consent, without your desire, and it was just an abusive situation. And I just want to apologize that happened to you. That was not God's plan for your life. That was the enemy coming to steal, kill, and destroy. But you know what? Jesus came that you would have life. He came that you could be set free from that torment, and that you could be healed in your heart and in your body if there are any ailments. And so I just want to encourage you that hope is not lost for you, and you can start saving yourself for marriage today.
You got to set boundaries and don't feel any shame with accepting those boundaries, with being honest with yourselves and humbling yourself. The real man serves the Lord. He serves the Lord in everything we do. And so if we want to serve the woman that God has called us to lead, we need to lead by example. And that includes humbling ourselves, calling our own foul, telling her, being open and upfront with her, not being ashamed of that. She'll actually value the vulnerability. And if she doesn't, that's a clear sign. And it actually is good for you because you'll know she's not the one. And we're not telling you that they need to be perfect. And maybe they will say, oh, okay, like, can you help explain that to me? You know, it's not going to be easy to tell a girl that you can't hug her next to her bed for 30 seconds, right? And so she might be like, hey, why can't you hug me? And you're going to have to tell her, hey, it's just a boundary I have to set because I want to stay sexually pure. And she needs to just respect that. She needs to understand that. Now, again, I'm not telling you not to hug, but for some people, it might not be wise to hug frontally for a long amount of time while you're all alone.
I want you to understand there aren't these specific rules. Everyone is different.
Yeah.
Pray about it. Ask the
Okay,
Lord. Take inventory of
guys.
yourself and understand yourself and
Too
see like
good.
what your triggers are and what tempts
That's
you and
good.
what doesn't, so that you can communicate that to the person. But also, I do want to clarify that if they are not united with you about saving yourself for marriage and waiting to have sex, I mean that's a clear indicator that it's going to be like you don't want to convince them of the value of that. You want them to want that for themselves from the start. Now, if it's things like, oh, I don't feel comfortable kissing, and they maybe do, and that might be a little something that you have to talk through. That's a much smaller thing. But specifically about sex, you really need to be united from the start about that because you don't want them to just say, okay, sure, and then you're dating them and things get serious, and let's say you get engaged and all of a sudden they're pressuring you, and it's like, what? I thought we were united about this. You do not want to get into a situation like that.
And how can two run together if they're not united? I hear all the time from couples who tell me that they are going to different churches. They don't agree on theology. Things like praying every day, reading their Bible every day, walking in faith, walking in love, forgiveness, praying in the Holy Spirit, worshiping in the Spirit, not idolizing other things, but worshiping God. Like the things I just said. If you two don't agree on those things, you need to get an awareness of where you're at. You can't run together if you're not united. And if you're not united before you're married, you don't unite after getting married. You'll probably even divide even more. That's why you need to find out who the other person is like. Now, while we had the boundary of not kissing and kind of like withholding ourselves from certain cuddles and things like that, we definitely found ourselves crossing the boundaries at times where we would kiss. We thankfully continued saving ourselves, but we found our boundaries shifting a little bit more than we desired, and found ourselves making mistakes.
Yeah.
And I dealt with the temptation of, oh, you messed up before, you broke that boundary, so why don't you just take it a little bit further? Why don't you just take it a little bit further? And I remember though that was something we had to battle together, and we had to get strict on ourselves and set that boundary back from at the start. And it was like over and over again. Even if we made a mistake, we were like, no, we're going back to the original boundary. I think that helped us a lot.
Totally.
I'd say just always being consistent, just going back. Even if you fall down, get back up again. Going back to that boundary helped a lot.
We're not here to say like, oh, we're perfect. We held perfectly to all these things, and like we're the experts. We are definitely not. We are normal humans just like you, and we face temptations just like you do. And so like something that's not talked about enough is the discipline aspect of boundaries and the how do we move forward when we messed up?
And it's not always fun too.
No.
Like, it's not fun to tell the other person no, but that's real love.
And something specifically that we utilize, if we did cross our boundaries, we would make the rule of, okay, we're not going to see each other for the next few days. That's something that we kind of implemented because obviously we wanted to spend time with each other, we wanted to talk with each other, and so like having consequences, that was a very helpful way to learn to value one another and the time we had together.
And accountability helps as well. Having friends in your life where you let them in on what's going on. You don't have to be isolated. You definitely should submit to spiritual authority above your life as well. That brings us into line number 5 though, which we hear this all the time, that you need to see if you're sexually compatible before getting married. And people tell them, oh, but, you know, you're going to test and see before you buy the product. Listen, Allie is not a product. The girl is not a item from the vending machine. She's a living being and a daughter of the Most High God. And
All right,
that's how you need to see one another.
enough. That's enough. Bye-bye.